Alright guys, switcheroo conducted. Let's start with the deep dive. So agenda here, 5-minute segments, 4 in total. Going to start off with go-to-market strategy process, then a walkthrough of the worksheet that we typically use to bring a go-to-market strategy into practice. Then we're going to look at the blueprint, so how does it visually go from one stage to the next, which technologies do you encounter? And then we're going to wrap up with some concrete examples of campaign and content. And what we're showing here today, parts of that will be covered in the workshop. So this is the full motion from A to Z, and then the guys in the individual workshops will cover aspects of it. Check? All right, let's get started. So every go-to-market motion is based on a few things, and one of the most predominant factors is the annual contract value or the annual deal size. Let's do a question here in the room. For your bigger deals, your tier 1, your longer sales cycle deals, is that above or below 50,000? Let's raise a hand for 50,000 euros annual deal size in the first year. Let's put some hands up. Who has 50k plus? Okay, about a third of the room. Who has 30k or more? And the people that were at 50 can also raise their hand for the counting purposes. Yeah, okay, that's about half. So, account-based motion starts to become relevant from roughly 30k plus onwards, because you need to be able to justify your investment in targeting a specific set or accounts, or even just one account. So that's very important to take into consideration when you develop your motion and the resources that you will invest in it. So in the bigger motions, we also deal with multiple people in the buying committee, and typically the bigger the deal size, the longer the cycle, the more people you have to target in your motions. And we also call this multi-threading, because you have multiple threads of communication with different people in the buying committee. What we are specifically after when we develop the motion is always to find the accounts that are in market, that have a higher likelihood to buy. That's tops 10% of your market, but sometimes only a few percent. So finding those accounts, especially if you want to prove success for the first time that you run it, is very important. Today we also look at how we can find those signals in Clay. Lars' session, but also Vladimir, of course, you will talk about signals and how to uncover them for your market. So if we do a summary of what we are after, we want to find ideal clients that we can help and sell to, and that are in market. So this is the sweet spot that we are after, that few percent. And the motion that we're now going to put on the screen is going to be revolving around those accounts. When you roll out the motion that we are looking at today, in terms of expectation management, what we very often see is the first 3 months you will get the initial traction. After 3 to 6 months, you will start to see the first results coming in, meeting books, discovery calls, maybe some pipeline. But really after 3 to 9 months, that is when the KPIs still truly start to hit. So with this context, we're going to move into the second segment, which is the strategy worksheet and how are we moving through the strategic part of it before we roll it out. Any questions so far, guys? Good to move forward? Okay, let's go. Second segment then. We'll definitely inflate this. Visible enough like this? All good? Okay, so ICP, Ideal Client Profile Criteria. Some laughs in the room. So guys, what we are after here is firmographics, mostly. So we often look at industry, revenue, employee size to make segments of what is our most important customer. Tier 1 is quite often connected to a high deal size, but doesn't have to be. Tier 1 really means the type of accounts that are the best fit for your business. So it can also be that sometimes Tier 3 can have maybe a few 100K order size, but because it's so hard to get in, you take the slightly smaller accounts as the tier 1, really your focus accounts. The buying committee. This is when we speak about multi-threading. So who are the most predominant people that we want to go after when we run a motion? And we usually tier them. In contact tier A are the most important personas. And for those personas, we use the spiced methodology from revenue architecture to really nail what it is that they are going after. So we want to know what pain are they experiencing and what is the impact that our solution in the end can provide. And this is on a rational and an emotional level. So numbers and feelings, because signatures, putting the signature, that is an emotional action. All the work before that, ROI, business case, that is the rational part. But you also need to understand what moves your persona, and this is quite often based on what they are experiencing in their job, the success that they want to have, the status or the reputation in the company. Then we use the pain and the impact to come up with a messaging house, a messaging matrix, and this lines out, okay, my prospects have a challenge to overcome, they have an informational need, and we need to connect our messaging to that informational need and preempt the objections. And this is the basis for the next step, and the next step is to come up, of course, with content ideas. So we are close to the end of the second segment. So we did also an ABM campaign with numbers. Ralph, as you well know, we did multiple strategic workshop sessions. Britt, you was of course also part of that, and we came up with a ton of ideas. And you can see that here in the brainstorm. And then through a voting mechanism, you come up with a short list of content offers, and around that content offer, you will build your campaign blueprint. And that is the third segment of today. And the campaign blueprint dictates exactly from the very start to the very end, what is the experience for your prospect going to be. So if you select, for instance, a webinar, then of course you want to determine how are we going to invite people to that webinar? So what are the invitation tactics? For this event today, a lot of you got personal invites, and that is also what we recommend for your more interesting prospects and relationship, the tier 1s. Send personal invites. But yeah, you can also, of course, use other tactics like thought leader ads and multiple marketing tactics to get people to come to the webinar. One of the big takeaways for this blueprint: always predefine the sales follow-up before you run the campaign. Of course, yes, with Base Builder, we already thought at the beginning, what are we going to do after they come to the event or to the webinar? What are we going to follow up with? So this is really my top recommendation when you come up with your campaign plan, is to already predetermine what they will receive at the end. So very often, for your bigger accounts, what we tend to do is to have a direct mail package, a physical package, because the world is online, it is AI, they're being bombarded with all kinds of stuff via digital channels. But if you come in with a physical package and really show that you care and that you understand them, then that can really resonate very well. So for instance, revenue architecture book from today with a handwritten note, and sometimes even something gimmicky. Of course, Base Builder loyalty program, we have a little spin the wheel that's going to be in that package. When we're going after an IT company, we have a Lego set of a modern workplace. IT people, they don't care about books or ROI calculators. They want something funky on the desk that they can have around. So that stuff really works, but you need to understand your persona very well. 3 segments completed now. Theory, worksheet, strategy, and now the blueprint. And we're going to look at some more content examples, but maybe there are questions now. Anyone who wants to chime in? Yes. Yeah, Cedric.
If you look at the ICP, we actually had a discussion within the company that is the ICP the one that you convert the quickest or the easiest, or is it the one that is the most revenue?
Exactly. So back to the tiering discussion. First of all, it depends very much on what do you want to achieve. If you run a motion like this for the first time, there's significant investment, but also a lot of team members involved. So If you want to prove success, it is probably the best idea to go after the somewhat smaller accounts, the tier 2 accounts, for instance. Smaller deal size, shorter cycle, get a few ones in. If you already have C-level conviction that this is the way to go, then you can go after the bigger accounts, accepting that it will take longer for pipeline to come in. So that is really, what would you want to achieve at this phase?
Always revenue, right?
Yeah.
No, I think the important factor here is that we have two motions. One is enterprise that we actually are trying out.
Mm-hmm.
And when we know that we are in the middle segment, we're doing great. So it's like, do we want to accelerate that segment? Do we see that as a tier 1 because we can already convert? Or do we want to spend this motion and spend the most money on enterprise because the ACP is like 10 times?
Yeah. With enterprise, money in the bank is not the only consideration. It's also what is required for my team to onboard them. And what does it mean, the impact on customer success, for instance, on the right side of the bow tie, which we will look at later. And does it require product adaptations? Will they come in with a shit ton of requirements for my product team after they are onboarded? So that is a very important factor, not just from the commercial revenue side, but also usage and adoption. It is one of the considerations for sure, and you can go a bit deeper. I will just pull up this worksheet. So here, if you are in the exercise and it is unclear what is my ICP or what is my tier, you can start to score them on a lot of parameters. So how profitable is this market? Do we have case studies there, a network? That can also help you determine, is this industry the right fit? And if so, what should be my tier? This worksheet will be shared. You can even do an analysis on where do we expect the most revenue to come in at the end. Because a market might be very saturated with a certain tier or industry and others might not be. So study this in your own time and use it if you want. Any other questions, guys? Nothing so far. One in the back, yes. Excel is good because I can send it to someone, they can immediately start to get to work. But I've seen people convert this into Cursor. I've seen people, if you are a bit geeky on the data side, run ICP analysis in Cursor. And it will show you actually sometimes hidden insights that you do not know about where the real revenue is coming from. Of course, you can use connect it all to Cloud and have it produce something like this. But this is a good starting point, and you can just send this to everyone and get started. Any other questions? Then we move to campaign example. So we just wrapped up segment number 3, which is the campaign blueprint. And we're going to look at an example from one of our oldest clients, not in the room today. We're there, the last edition, Gradient. Gradient has a technology where you can make a virtual copy of your energy network. So if you are an energy network in Helsinki providing heat to homes, you want to make simulations, you want to model. Is there enough heat there? How much am I spending to get it there? So that is the solution that Gradient has. And in the Nordics, they conducted a market research report on the state of district heating. And what they did, the top 17 institutions in the Nordics market were interviewed. Some of them were clients, some of them were prospects, and the results from the interviews were consolidated into this market research report with 10 key takeaways. And some of them, for instance, Helen in Helsinki, they called it the 10 commandments of district heating. It was literally being printed, glossy style, mandatory reading, handed out into the company, all from an external partner who in the end, of course, was trying to sell a software. But look at the power of thought leadership and building true authority with your content. This is a great example of that. And to make it even better, they then did a roundtable webinar with some of the participants from the report. Gradient CEO was there, but also the CEO from Helen Helsinki, They were already working together. So it was a live case study for all the people that were watching. And this is still bringing revenue today. This is over 2 years ago that they launched this account-based campaign. And it is still bringing in revenue today. Already millions attributed. And we ran the same playbook in the German region. And there it also produced similar results. So think about, that is the takeaway from this part. What is my audience really looking for? And how can I claim the authority in my market with a piece like this? End of segment 4. Any questions before we wrap up? Yes?
What are your main means to, 2 years after, attribute revenue inbound from this specific webinar?
So the most high-over way is to have the HubSpot marketing campaign report. Does it tell the full truth? No, but it shows you at least influenced revenue, influenced accounts. So we could already see from that report that the accounts were engaging and who were participating. And look, in the end, guys, Jörg, I think, do we still do a manual deal source? So where we say, hey, we know this lead or this revenue came in, we tag it as... Yes, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the key things, because that is the main trigger point which tells you how a lead got created, and from there on you can analyze and go deeper. But you always want to know what triggered that lead to be created. What was the last touch point for a lead to come in? This can be for I'm talking about hand raises, outbound campaigns, lead scoring, partner referrals, and so on and so on.
Yeah. Indeed, so buyer journeys, never linear, and there are multiple touch points, multiple channels. But what brought in this deal in the end, that is what you want to manually log, and because that is the real truth. And attribution and reports only tell a part of the truth. So that's how you combine it.
You also ask where they know you from.
Yeah, that's literally in the end how the account execs do it. When you close it, it's like, how did you find us, and what was the key decision aspect of going forward. Yeah. So I know, for instance, for us, the 70-80% is LinkedIn thought leadership, and 15% events, and the rest is referral. So we always ask it, and we track it, and we report on it. Any other questions? Yes.
We all know, like, when a piece of content hits, it's great. So I'm interested in, like, how you guys landed on this one very successful topic or format, because it's usually deciding on the right thing to do that is the hard part, right? Like, once you have one piece that is very successful, of course you can go and use it. So, like, the process, how did you guys, like, come up with this great thing?
Yeah, good question. So then we're going to go back to your personas. So what is moving them? And again, I just picked the example of an IT manager versus maybe a growth marketer or RevOps manager who really like in-depth stuff. How does the blueprint work? How do I build a clay table? IT manager doesn't care about that. They want something else. So determine what is moving your persona, and then you use that in the brainstorm. And ideally, you interview a few clients. What made you move? What made you buy? How did your research process go? And with those insights, then you come up with the content piece. And also ask, this is what I always ask in a customer interview, what is the type of content that you like to consume, and what is your preferred consumption material, so to say? That is a good question to ask. Good? Yeah? Yes, Lina.
So at the beginning you mentioned that it's worth exploring this when you have such a number of deals you can value. But would you recommend, or what would you recommend if you're moving, let's say, in a different phase? So from early buyers to a majority buyers type of situation, where deal size and number of deals might not necessarily be relevant anymore, but you're selling to different people. So you need to redo this personal analysis in a way.
Are you up and cross-selling in this scenario? Yeah. So this motion also works for that. And because here you're going to be even more account-based. And you have the relationship because they are an existing customer. So you can leverage that existing relationship to invite them to your event and maybe show them other parts of the motion that could be interesting. That is literally how it goes. One bonus segment. We have time, Rutger?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay, good. So the question was, of course, in the beginning, how do we select the accounts that are in market? And this is what you can use enrichment technology like Clay for. So you can say, I know what my ICP is, so I'm going to use all different kinds of data sources and have the enrichment platform, which we will show today with Vladimir's signal session and Lars doing the follow-up live signal collection. What are relevant signals for my buyers in the market? And how can we come up with a scoring system that gives us an indication of what accounts to prioritize? That is really how you can, if you want to find out who are in market, who have a higher likelihood to buy, that 3 to 10% roughly that we are after, this is how you can do it. This is how you can come up with a scoring system and find all the relevant contacts with the information. How you take it into your motion GDPR-wise in Germany, I cannot advise you on that, but we can find pretty much everything. We have not in the room yet, but for instance, there is a company here that wants to know if certain providers are electrifying. So, for instance, do they have solar panels on the roof? Our guy there, together with Vladimir, very smartly, were able to scan the roofs via Google Maps API of those companies, and we were able to extract solar panels, and boom, the score just went up. And that is a signal. And if you collect that with the engagement that they do on your own channels, so website visit, form submissions, engagement with your ad, this is how you build a scoring model around your account, and this is how you can determine the likelihood to buy and prioritize. Wrapping up with one takeaway, it is just an assumption, is a thesis you're building around the account. As a sales rep, you have to really go in, do the research, go on Sales Navigator and validate. But this is how you can get a better picture, at least, of the accounts that are in market. And then, of course, you want to send them to HubSpot. If your deal size is lower, you can run automated email outbound on top, and always make sure to connect it to Sales Navigator to be able to stay on top of these accounts in your home feed scan, to see what they are doing, and together with your inbound content, make sure that they always become part of your network. And then you have inbound, you have outbound, and you have the big piece, the top leadership, like the market research report, to pull them in to claim the authority in the market. That is the game we are playing. And that's also the end of this talk. Thank you, guys. Any last follow-up questions? Sorry, got to give him time though. Yeah.
What's the advantage of using instantly over HubSpot workflows or sequences as a way to automate your email outreach?
A few technical components, for instance, the warm-up. Lars, you want to take this one, my friend?
So HubSpot sequences are limited to 50 per day, I guess?
Yeah,
Or how much is it? Yeah, 50. So if you do a lot of outbounding, you can do 50 a day max. Plus, you're sending them from your own domain. So if you do bulk, you might get flagged by someone who sees it as spam. Then your main domain gets flagged as spam, and your normal email won't go out anymore. With instantly, you can bump it up all the way to how many accounts you buy. And they have many more advantages, like they match senders. So if you can buy Gmail accounts, and Gmail comes better into other Gmail accounts, you can buy Microsoft accounts come better into Microsoft accounts, so that bumps the deliverability. Yes, you get a different domain, but in my experience, people don't care.
So don't burn the reputation from your main domain. With instantly, you can set up burner domains. So those are try@company.com, etc. And yeah, we can send dozens of emails per day per burner domain, 2 email addresses per. So it is way safer, and you can scale it up. Well, not infinitively, but quite extensively.
And you can also link you can send webhooks from instantly to some sort of Clay. So you can monitor every email that's been sending out, and also connect it to a lead within HubSpot. So you can still see everything that's been working. So you don't message leads, so you don't follow up within HubSpot.
Yeah, if a rep comes in, they can see what has been sent out in instantly. And when we get a positive reply, so someone saying, oh yeah, or my colleague, then immediately we can bring them into HubSpot as well. And put them in the sales workspace for follow-up immediately. We'll touch on that later. on the HubSpot side.
But then I think Clay, the advantage of it is it's not just for email. You look at Clay as kind of a collection of agents that you can tell them to research different things and transform your data and then put that into HubSpot. So even if you're running a sequence or a message in HubSpot, I think it's very valuable to use Clay to capture the data that you want, get the signals that you want, and transform the text into whatever hook or whatever content you want to personalize to your sender.
Because if, for instance, someone recently moved into a new position, we can use that as a hook in the email. Hey, I saw your 3 months in ad. We typically see that within the first 3 to 6 months of your tenure, these are good starting points, so you can also educate your prospect that way. Any other questions? All good for now. Then we're going to move over to you, to the man of the day.